Hi, I'm Anthony with LoveCry,
And
and
I'm Jesse. Love gratitude.
right on, right on. So today we're going to talk about,
Parent alienation.
and you're a parent, and at
Yes.
times you felt alienated.
I have been alienated.
So, I mean, I'm not a parent, but I have definitely felt alienation towards my dad. And you talked about what happens in divorce, or when parents separate, or even if they don't separate, but one parent really bad mouths the other parent. And so I don't know if you want to maybe start like define like what is this parent alienation? Like what's the concept? What is it?
Well, parent alienation is kind of like, I don't have like an exact definition, but it's where a one parent badmouths the other parent to the child, trying to make the child have the same viewpoints as it.
Which is wildly inappropriate.
Yeah,
It's like
it's very disturbing that people still do this today and are able to get away with it based on the systemic issues that are ongoing. So, like for me, for parent alienation, I find a lot of people don't know how to handle it or how to cope with it because it's so it, oh, it like
it
rips
hurts
your
so
heart
much.
out.
Yeah, this is your child,
You
right?
know, so for me as a man, I lost my child when she was 5 and a half, to someone I believe was abusing her, and
Her mother.
yes, and then so for as time went on, she was alienating me from her, totally convincing her to stay away from me. I've went through court for 15 years, trying to see her, but to no avail. To no avail. And now she's back in my life now. So then I'm kind of off topic a little bit, but the alienation started when Kyla was about 5 years old. It was ongoing. It continued to be talking bad, making her not want to see me, saying that she doesn't want to see me, but there was never a reason. Like the child would never
So
explain.
Kyla would say, "I don't want to see my dad," but
Yeah,
she would never be able to say why. But it was kind of like she was internalizing her mom saying, "You don't want to see your dad. Your dad's a bad person. He's no good for you. He doesn't want to see you. He doesn't want like." I don't know what kind of things was she saying. Like you didn't want to be a father for her. You didn't want to see her. Like what was she putting in her head? Her
it's
mom.
it's hard for me to know all the details that were happening at the point in time because now my daughter's back and she still has these negative concepts of who I am, without even like like any knowledge to why she feels this way. There's
Like
no.
she hasn't arrived to that. It was given to her. It was planted in her.
Yeah, and even still, like there's no circumstance in her that has made her feel this way. So there's these kinds of things. Like if there's no real reason why a child doesn't want to see a parent, there's usually it has to be a good reason why a child chooses not to see its parent because a child will see its parent even if it abuses it. So for a child to choose not to see its parent, there's usually a pretty big reason. And if that child is not displaying that reason and you're trying to get, say, counseling or some other support system in play to find out, and say that other parent refuses that access. So then now what can you do? So now you're left with your child being hurt. You have no option to get the child. So now there's only anger, resentment, jealousy, pain, and now what do you do with this? Because you feel you're right. You've lost your child, you're fighting for your child, you believe they've been wronged. And so when you're, oh man.
I know it's a heavy topic for you because it was such a tremendous pain that you went through and that you're still going through because now you've got your daughter who's got these internalized issues and she's kind of blocked and it's super hard for you to see her suffering the way she is and see her blocked the way she is. And alienation is just terrible. Like I know this mother who was in incredible depression, and she was separated from the father of her child, and her child was like 14, 15 years old, and he was calling his mom all the same bad things that the father was calling the mom, like all these accusations, and he turned that child against his own mother, and that's extremely damaging for the child. Like and we'll go
Yeah,
back.
I was going to say it turns the child against himself because
Yeah.
when you make a child hate the other parent, who made that child?
Mm.
That parent and you. So now it hates half of itself. So these are things to where you need to really look at because do you love your child? or do you just want your way?
Right, you want that child to love you more, or to like to hate the other parent because you're mad at the other parent, so you want that child to be mad at the other parent too. And I was having the same thought as you at the same time because I had some big issues with my father, and I really, a lot of healing came to these issues around the age of 30. I'm 54 now, and it was part of like my self-love, because if I had a big issue with my dad, then I would have big issues with myself, because I am 50% my father and 50% my mother, just genetically speaking. And even when you grow up with someone, you're going to take things from them. And so, in my worst phases of my dad relationship, there was things in myself that I didn't like in myself because they were like my dad. And I'm so blessed and grateful that I had like 24 years of being able to talk to my dad man to man and have a relationship with him that was very good, and then I see things in me that are my dad's, and I'm glad that I have them, right? Because so, and who doesn't have problems with their parents? Like, there is no perfect parent on this planet. So if you're an offspring of a parent and you're like, well, I can't love my parent because they effed up in this way or they effed up in that way, and that's where you make a big point of forgiveness, because here you're literally like forgiving yourself too, because we are a product of our parents. Of course, we bring our own selves into our life and we command our life and we steer our life, but we are also largely a product of our parents. So we have to have a good relationship with them and come to peace with all of the problems and issues that there would be between any parent and child.
Changes the cycle.
Yeah, you break the cycle, right?
Yeah.
Because if I'm like, my mom would always say, like, I always promise myself to not do this and this thing that my mother did. So when you're living a reactionary life instead of an actionary life, you're living a reactionary life. That takes you away from yourself. Because are you doing what you're doing because you want to, or are you doing what you're doing because you're trying not to be like your mom, you're trying not to be like your dad, and it's self alienating.
And I guess like one thing too, like when I lost my daughter, I was told that if it's love, it will come back. And that made me angry.
Right.
That was also
Because like,
because
I'm waiting, bitches, and my daughter's not coming back.
yeah,
Like,
like but even still to like be like just let it be. Like allow this process to be as it is because what you're doing you can't change it. So it was it,
this is a tough one for you to talk about.
Sorry.
No, no, it's awesome. You're making it real, man, because this is real for you. This is so real for you, and that's why you're so qualified to talk about it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot where I was on that point.
Oh, but like you were getting so frustrated because people was like, oh, if your daughter loves you, she's gonna come back to you, or if you love
Yes.
her, it's gonna work itself out some magical way.
Yeah, so like it was making me angry because I didn't understand it in a sense because that in a sense shows love because like if you love them and you truly love them, they'll come back because you'll do the work, you'll do what's necessary for them, not because you lost, not because you were hurt. You worked on that pain, you worked through that so your child doesn't feel that. So your child doesn't feel the blame that they did this to you. Like because whether they acknowledge that pain or not, they're going to feel like they did this to you because of the other parent. And if you're not working on yourself and dealing with these things, it's going to crush your relationship with them. Because when my daughter came back, like I was working through my issues, I was getting, to me in my sense, like I was improving. And when she came back, and it was like a test, like it was like reliving it all with now skills to manage it. But seeing my daughter in those positions, it messes with your head. It makes you depressed. You feel hurt. But knowing that staying there hurts your child, further alienates them from themselves. You you need to you need to work on that to get past that. I understand the anger, the pain, like that's what they want. The system likes that because they could get away with controlling what the outcomes are. If we start to stand in a way that is loving and honest and take that pain so that we're not reactive, so that they can't say, well, look what you
Oh
did.
yeah, you acted out, so our our theory that you're a bad dad is true because look how you're acting,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
exactly.
So we're going to frustrate the shit out of you until
Hmm.
you act out. And then we
Yes.
were right saying that you're not a good person
and
because you're
then
acting out.
and then people look at that as, well, they must have done something, look how they're acting now, look at their anger, and then they never really hear the backstory of what led to this, or what happened to that child, because it's all confidential. No one's allowed to know the information, and it's all hidden. And then you have to go to this doctor, this help, that resource, and it's all this circle jerk, and you're just like, would I can you just help my family? Like, can we just work on what's necessary? Why are we playing these games? Why are you sending me over here? And to me, it's a trap, because it hurts you, it makes you angry, and you're sitting there for months, waiting for a meeting to talk about the access to your child, or what's happening in the situation. And it involves a high power. Like Children's Aid, no one tops them. Everyone reports to them. So who are you going to complain to? Them. They have a complaint procedure inside themselves.
Right. They're monitoring
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah. Like kids are dying. Kids are dying, and we're letting them monitor themselves. And when they make those mistakes, who hears about it? Well, whatever happens, oh, the parents. Oh, look at the parents.
Yeah, we'll find a way to blame the
Just like
parents.
Jeffrey Baldwin, that child was starved to death over years, and reports were put in, and that he was drinking and eating out of the toilet. Like his bed was pissed, like pee was dropping from his bed when they pressed on it, and no one knew. No one knew. He died of pneumonia at 26 pounds. And you know what CS did? They put a statue in the park.
Right. But they had complaints from family members saying, look, this kid is not being nourished properly, not being treated properly. And they're like, we're handling it. Don't bug
And they
us.
were in the care of two abusers, someone who was already convicted of murder of a child, and the other one was convicted of abusing a child. And then they also had their kids come on talking about how they were locked in cages, and how did they even get kids. And then there's another funny point here too, is that 2004 they never even had mandatory background checks on who kids were getting, like where they were placing children.
Wow.
It wasn't
Wow.
until then that they made it mandatory background checks.
Wow. So it begs the question, how could someone mess up that royally? It really begs the question.
Yeah, like
So we're
it's
dealing with an organization that is not, is going to chew you up and spit you out as a parent. So you have to have this power within yourself, and you have to do this healing. We talked in other videos, like of finding this thing of self-love, and but you're saying you can motivate yourself to work on yourself with love for your child. Like,
yeah,
I want to heal
yeah.
for the good of my child.
That's
So for
that's
their
what triggered
sake,
me.
yeah, so for their sake, I'm going to try to heal myself. And it made you able to weather all of these crazy making behaviors on these different organizations and not act crazy yourself.
Because in that fight for love for my child, I found love for myself, and I would not give it up for anything. That loss of my child, however painful that was, it was also like a blessing. There was, like, I learned so much. Like, I wouldn't wish this learning on anyone, but I don't, like, I wouldn't be here, I wouldn't be who I am without it. I wouldn't know what I know without it. So to me, it's something that brings me to myself and makes me like a real person, not a bad person, not a worse person, because I lost my kid. The shame of what people think of me. But I only lost my kid because people couldn't think properly. People didn't do their job. People didn't do the work necessary to understand the complexities of such a traumatic situation. And these are the people that we report to. These are the ones that have all these complaint procedures, and it takes months. Like, we're talking about your family.
Like, oh yeah, yeah, wait a few months and then we'll talk about how you might see your daughter.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
really?
yeah.
So like, who has that power? They can just take a child away from you. I mean, I don't know. I guess the RCMP did it like 70 years ago with Native kids, but that's another story. But like in today's day, like, and it is kind of scary. I've discussed with people that are alternative and holistic minded, like, what if my child, had some disease and I didn't want them treated medically? That Children's Aid can take that child and say, we're going to get this child treated medically and not holistically,
And one
alternatively.
point on the indigenous part too is that they still do take their children on like enormous rates because of they they are allowed to minimize them and take their children and base it on like, oh, they act like this, or they're alcoholics, or they're on drugs, but yet nothing's taken into account to what's happened. What
Right.
suffering they went through, especially at the expense of a country.
Mm.
Like,
Like, why don't we work on this family to keep them together rather than ripping the child out of their family, putting them in God knows what
yeah,
situation? Like, is that going to help them or is it not going to help them? Is it going to make things worse? We don't know.
because they don't want strong people, especially people who have healed from such atrocities, because they are the ones that will make change. They are the ones that people need, and they are the ones that people will want.
But change threatens the existing system.
Oh God.
Right? The existing system is like, it's good the way it is. Don't change it. So, but change is what we need. We need change. We need growth. And it starts, as you say, it's our
It's in
vibration.
itself.
Who
Yeah.
are we being? So who we are being in the world is like dropping that pebble into the pond and these waves go out.
Yeah. No
So
matter
who
what
are we
anyone.
being?
Sorry.
Yeah, no
No matter
matter.
what else anyone else is being, it doesn't reflect on how you should be. So if someone's out there calling names and making fun of you, and you do it back because they did it to you, now aren't you the same? Like
Oh no,
it's
but they did it
yeah,
first.
exactly. They had their own reasons. My reasons are better reasons than their reasons.
Right.
you know, so
Well, Eckhart Tolle talks about that. Like, if you're attacked, try doing something so weird and just sit there, and then the attacker's like, "Wow, this like you will cause a shift." Because like I told this guy to f off, and he just looked at me like, "I wonder why you're telling me that." Like, and no fight back. Like that's gonna cause it. It could cause a tremendous shift
I
to
think
both
I, th-
parties.
I think it does regardless. Even if you do get hit, and that person's gonna be like, if they hit you and you do nothing, and it like
It's gonna
yeah,
mess
yeah,
with their
yeah,
head.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
whoa.
It may hurt you a little bit, but yeah, I guarantee you've messed with them more than they mess with you. so,
So, I mean, you talked about what you've been through, and I have every respect for you. And I've seen you, you know, grow as a person over 20 years, tremendously. And I really hope that these videos go viral, and I hope that your message touches a lot of people. And you are a guy who walks the walk. Like I can say that, man. Like I know this guy a little bit.
a
so
wee bit.
so thank you for sharing your stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I guess like too for the parent alienation, like it's something that takes work, it takes time, and it takes support, and it takes a lot of self work because they want you angry, and they know how to do it. They've been studying psychology for over 100 years. They know how to play with your mind. You have to focus on the love and what you really are after, because they can't break love. No matter how much hate they shit on you, your heart will bust it. I guarantee you. But it takes that belief, because they're going to try and try and try. It's once you get in your head and have those negative thoughts, that's when they get you. So,
and
thank
that's
you.
true of anyone dealing with any authority or system, right? Like keep your focus and don't rise or sink to the level that you're being thwarted with or played with.
And always be thoughtful of others.
Mm.
Always, never have your feelings trump others. Always have like an understanding to work with one another, because that's especially in parent alienation, with a parent who wants to be angry, who is that parent will eventually cause its own demise. If you get angry, you react, you're giving them your power.
Mhm.
And I've done that myself
So
for too many years.
you mentioned Spirit Rock. So would that just be spiritrock.com with
Yeah,
Jack
I think it's
Cornfield stuff?
Spirit Rock Meditation Center. If you just
Okay.
look that up, it will
Okay.
it will pop up. I don't think it's very much. It's in California,
Oh.
and if Jack Cornfield, there's all sorts of
Is it
teachers
spelled
on
with a
there.
K or a C?
K
Oh, the
J
K.
A C K.
Oh, I meant like
Oh,
cornfield.
Cornfield's a K. Yeah,
Okay,
Cornfield's a
cornfield.
K.
Okay, okay. I mean,
And there's lots of teachers.
there's many good resources. So that resource really spoke to
Oh,
you,
that one.
and
Yeah.
I've listened to some of it. I was very, very impressed, and find the one that speaks to you. And I
They
think
talk about all sorts.
people can maybe leave comments on what resources they've liked.
Yeah,
They can leave comments on your video, and then maybe you can consider some of them and see what you think.
yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. All right, Pete.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thanks.